Today, we have a special guest. We have a QueensBridge legend in the building today. LaShawn Marston, a.k.a. Suga Ray.
Yes, sir.
What's going on? How we feeling today?
Oh, man, what's going on, brother? I'm happy to be here with my man, Eating Vegan with Nick. Nick, man, is an honor and a pleasure, bro. I feel good, grateful.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate you, and let's just get into it,
yes,
right?
Sir.
There's so much that I want to discuss and cover while we're getting into it. But before we get into, all the activism conversations, the hunger strikes, the all things vegan, I want to really start from the beginning.
Okay, let's
go.
I
I want to get to know you, who you are, where you come from. So, Suga Ray, my man, where you from?
From Queens, man. Born and raised in Queens, originally from South Jamaica, Queens, right behind 40 Projects, 109 and 157. And then at 2 years old, because of a house fire, right, my mother actually woke up and the house was on fire, and she saved me, right? My siblings, they were at their grandparents' house. The rest of our family was out, doing other things. And my mother woke up. I was 2 years old, and she smelled fire. She opened the room door. It was a boiler fire, so it was burning through the stairs from the basement up to the second floor of the house. And she grabbed me. She said, one bottle, one Pamper, put me in the arm, jumped down a burning flight of stairs.
Wow.
And we ended up going to a shelter hotel at the time, and then that's how we got the apartment in QueensBridge.
Wow. So you went from Southside Jamaica, Queens, to QueensBridge.
Yes.
And it's so crazy because, I'm from Queens. And
yes, sir.
It seems like, when you're from QueensBridge, you more or less so isolated. Like, all you know is QueensBridge. Whereas when you come from other parts of Queens, you might be in different parts of Queens as well. South Side might be in North Side, but seems like QueensBridge folks love QueensBridge.
Of course.
Is that how you felt?
So I love QueensBridge, and what was unique about QueensBridge was that it was close to Steinway Street, right? So we had shopping centers, right? We had movie theater. We could walk to our elementary schools. We could walk to our middle school. We could walk to our high schools, right? And then they had colleges even. LaGuardia College was not too far. So people who lived in QueensBridge literally didn't have to leave a 10-mile radius. However, again, I'm fortunate enough because I had family, right? I had family all over Queens. My dad had a house in Hollis, right? So I was in Hollis. My sister's grandmother, right? We have different fathers. My sister's grandmother had a house in Cambria Heights. Okay. So I spent time in Cambria Heights. Okay. I spent time in 40 Projects. I spent time in Rosedale. Okay. I spent time all over Queens, right? Or some of the main parts. Like some parts I didn't go to until I got older. I was like, this is still Queens, right? But no, again, I was fortunate enough. You mentioned a lot of people from QueensBridge only know QueensBridge and Steinway Street in that area because everything is there. Because my family was originally from Southside and then, Hollis, we often went to Jamaica Avenue to go shopping, right? We often went to Flushing to go shopping, Collie Block. We went to Flushing, right? We went to Metropolitan Avenue to go shopping. We did all of those things. And so I attribute a lot of who I am today to those early years of my life, right? Loving traveling, loving exploring the borough, loving exploring the city. But I will say that I do love QueensBridge still.
What was it like growing up in QueensBridge in the 80s? What was that like?
Man.
Because anytime you hear QueensBridge, obviously you think of all the famous musicians, but what was it like for you at least growing up in QueensBridge, right? What was young Suga Ray even eating, back then? What was he putting inside of his stomach? What was available to him?
So before I even talk about growing up in Queens, I want to make it clear that I wouldn't be who I am without QueensBridge, right? The way we got to QueensBridge through a fire, right? Like fire burns, but fire purifies, right? Fire is symbolic, right? So I want to always give honor and praise to QueensBridge because QueensBridge is a really sacred place, right? Two of my friends, Ruck the Jackal and Nazarene, they did a song a couple of years ago called New Kemet. And they're saying QueensBridge is the new Kemet. And when you think about it, people came from QueensBridge and taught the world. Music, sports, film,
I gotta pause you. I gotta pause you real quick. So when we talk about Kemet, right? Yes. For the people that don't know what that is, give them a little history.
Ancient Egypt. right?
Okay.
That's we taught the world. You know what I mean? Science, math, right? Geometry, right? We taught the world spirituality, right? We from Kemet or ancient Egypt went to Rome, right? Went to Greece, right? And we inspired everyone. And so people in Queensbridge has done the same. Right, so I want to make that clear. Now going back, you asked the question, what was it like growing up in Queensbridge? When people ask me that, I say it was a perfect balance. Again, because I had a family structure, right? I did grow up with both parents, right? I grew up with my dad until he passed away. My dad was my best friend. He was heavily in my life. You know, my granddad was in my life. My grandmothers had passed before I was born, but my sister's grandmother, my cousin's grandmother, a neighbor who was like a grandmother to me. So I had a very solid family structure. And even though a lot of my friends maybe didn't, we had each other, right? And so Queensbridge, on one side, it was extremely family oriented. You know what I mean? We played manhunt, we played basketball, we played football, we played fight, we backflipped on the mattresses, you know what I mean? Sometimes as children, we would knock the lights out in the building and have a building party. Because in my building, 4106 Vernon, which is probably the best building in the projects, and I don't say that just because I say that because there was a lot of people who are still tight today lived in the same building.
Okay.
My football coach lived on the second floor. We lived on the third floor. On the third floor, Tragedy spent time on the third floor. Shout out to Tragedy Gaddafi because his family lived across the hall from me, right? Next door to them was another family. You know, my man Rasheem ASAP, like best friends. Fourth floor was people, fifth floor was people, sixth floor was people. So it was real family oriented. It was real close knit. However, I remember vividly walking to school, walking through 40th side of 10th Street and seeing thousands of crack valves in the late 80s, early 90s. There were some times when I remember seeing a murder outside of our window. I might have been 9 years old, so maybe 92, 93, and going to school the next morning and still seeing the brains on the ground.
Wow.
Seeing chalk outlines sometimes walking to school.
Wow.
Right? A lot of gunshots.
So that's interesting because just from what I know and what I've always heard about Queensbridge, it's always been stated that this is a fact that Queensbridge is the largest project in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So although you are seeing, you know, very familiar faces and you're connected with these people, but are there a lot of people who live in that area?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Queensbridge is 6 blocks, 96 buildings, 3,444 apartments. Right now, it might be like 12, 13,000 people living in Queensbridge, if not more since the migrant issue.
Wow.
Right? Like 14,000 people living in a 6-block radius. That's insane. One supermarket. So you go back to what Suga Ray was eating. I remember getting pig feet. Out the store, right? Out the jar. Getting a pig foot out the jar and biting it right there. Terrible. But that's what I was conditioned to eat, right? I remember eating the bacon. I remember eating the sausage, egg, and cheese. They had a food truck on the corner that served at the time the most greasiest, best tasting bacon, egg, and cheese, or sausage, egg, and cheese, or turkey, egg, and cheese, right? And it's crazy that you talk about that. And I know you'll probably get into it later, but I realized that food was part of why I became so violent, because I was very violent.
So we're definitely gonna get into that because, you know, I wanna ask you when we do get into it if the foods that you ate led to some of the decisions that you ended up making.
Of course.
Right? But before we get into that, I want to continue talking about who you are, what your upbringing was like. You know, Queensbridge. You mentioned that, you know, you would see the chalk outline.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of violence happening in Queensbridge around that time?
Of course, it was tons of violence. I remember being a kid playing basketball on the block, and then one of the OGs running the block like, everybody get out, everybody go upstairs, it's about to be a shootout. And then we grab our basketball, we grab the football, whatever we doing, we start running. By the time we get to the building, you hear boom, 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 boom. And then sooner or later, you hear the ambulance. Right, you hear the cops, right? Then you might hear somebody crying and screaming, so now you know a loved one is dead.
Yeah.
Right, tons of violence. And then as children, we enacted that violence, right? Obviously, we weren't shooting each other, but we fought a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of us fought a lot over nothing really. Oh, what you said about me. Oh, you know, you can't play basketball with us.
The stupidest things.
The stupidest things. Oh, you know, they talked about me and my gaps in my teeth, right? And at the time, it made me angry. I was very subconscious, right? Very self-conscious about it. But no, absolutely a lot of violence. I remember my friends and I, we might have been 8 years old. It was the first time somebody pulled a gun on us, right? We was riding our bikes, and we was coming down one of the back ways, 41st, road from 21st Street to 12th Street, just riding around the neighborhood, going back to our block, and it was nighttime. And I remember hearing somebody be like, yo, get out of here. And then we saw the infrared beam. And then we just were scared. We just pedaled as fast as we could. Wow. Right.
When you were young and you were 8 years old and you saw some of these things, what would transpire in your mind? Was it like, damn, why are we living here? Or we need to get up out of here? Or was it just like, you know what? I'm not the only person who's going through this, so this is my normal.
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of all of it because, so even I guess starting to institute from age 6 years old to age 11, I went to Fresh Air Fund. Fresh Air Fund was a summer program, sleepaway program, where I went to Pennsylvania and I stayed with a white family on basically a farm for the whole summer, right? So I had that experience, and then during the year, they would come to New York. They would sometimes drive to QueensBridge, wow. You know what I mean, to see me. Like I said, plus I had family who would always either come see me in QueensBridge or bring me to their neighborhood, right? My uncle had a house in Far Rockaway, so I spent time in Far Rockaway. One of my uncles was a boxer. He was a New York State champion, so I spent a lot of time with him. So like I said, my upbringing was incredible. So part of me growing up in Queensbridge, seeing the violence, seeing the things that was happening, was like, this is normal, but it's not. It doesn't have to be. Like, this is normal here, but it's not normal other places, because when I'm in Cambria Heights, when I'm in Hempstead at my aunt's house, when I'm in Pennsylvania, the only gunshots I hear is if one of the family members is outside shooting cans. You don't hear random gunshots and screams. You don't hear ambulances and fire trucks and police cars.
Okay.
You don't hear that in those other neighborhoods, right? You don't see, you don't hear people arguing and then gunshots. You might hear people arguing in other neighborhoods, but then it's like you see people resolve it.
Okay.
Right? So again, it was like my childhood was perfectly balanced, right? Because it was not normal as a whole in my brain, but part of our brains, what we do is we rationalize, right? So it was like, okay, this is normal here. But I knew that it didn't have to be if we could elevate. And I didn't really know what that mean. And I would even institute at 7 years old, watching Michael Jackson sing Heal the World and realizing that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. Yeah. I want to use my words, use my gifts to make a positive impact.
Let's fast forward a little bit, let's go to your teenage years, right? As we're getting older, I know sometimes as teenagers we can be a bit rebellious and all this other stuff, right? I watched a documentary on you where, you spoke about the passing of your father and how the last memory, I believe, was your middle school graduation? Elementary graduation. And you mentioned that was the last time that you attended graduation, right? And you decided at some point throughout your teenage years to get your GED. Yep. Instead of completing, let's say, the normal, process that people go through for high school. Yep. What made you want to, no longer go through that normal process of going to high school and then just getting your GED at some point later on? Yeah, so, my dad passed when I was 11. My older sister passed when I was 14. So my teenage years was filled with pain, grief, heartache, anger, depression, right? I remember after my dad passed, and even before my sister passed, laying in bed at night, crying, praying for the strength to go jump off the roof and kill myself. Right? My mother and I didn't have the best relationship, right? And I get it now. She had to raise 3 children on her own. She had a tough upbringing with a Jamaican father who was a former World War II vet and alcoholic, right? So she grew up with violence. So that's what she knew. So that's what she enacted on her children. But man, I remember those times, right? Crying, praying, I just want to go where daddy's at. I don't want to be here with mommy. I want to go where daddy's at, right? But now, fast forward, so I was getting in trouble. So I've been kicked out of school every year since the 3rd grade, right? However, I've always landed in the 98, 99 percentile in English and math and writing and reading and science. I was extremely intelligent, but I was bored with school. Plus, you add the passing of my father, my sister, now as we go into middle school and high school, I was angry and now became more violent, right? And what happened was part of me wanted to finish, I wanted to get my a high school diploma. I wanted to finish what I started because that's what I like to do, right? My dad told me, you start something, finish it. However, I got kicked out of high school. And I got kicked out of high school at 15 years old, 1999. I was 15 years old going to Long Island City High School. We had a huge fight. I ended up bringing a knife to school the next day. I had a bunch of weed and they kicked me out. And I remember going to the district, and the district chancellor at the time said,
either you can go to a boarding school upstate, or you can get your GED, but you can no longer attend public schools in New York City. Because remember, I got kicked out of elementary school, everyone. I got kicked out of middle school, everyone. And now I'm in high school, I got kicked out. They're like, you're a menace. So
now let me ask you, what was the situation, if there was even a situation, that called for you, to bring a knife to school and to have some butt on you?
Well, we had fights. We were fighting every day in high school, right? We were fighting. There were Long Island City High School. There were people coming from South Jamaica, Queens. There were people coming from Brooklyn.
It was different back then.
And there was bullies, right? And I was the type where I like to call myself the bullier, right? The bully of bullies. Like, don't bully people around me. And there were people who were taking advantage of people, and I would step up. And most of the beef I had, particularly around that time, was because of either my friends or because of just strangers who I wouldn't let get bullied. And so we had a huge fight, and a guy had pulled a knife out on my friends, right? So they came to school the next day, told me, right? Yo, this guy pulled a knife out on us. He backed us down, da-da-da. So we seen it, we got it in that day. He pulled another knife out at the end of the fight. So now I'm like, you know what? When I go to school tomorrow, I'm bringing a knife. So in case he want to pull a knife out, I got a knife and we can knife it up. And so that's what happened. I was smoking weed every day, so that's why I had weed, right? And yeah, I remember getting arrested. They handcuffed me because he snitched.
And was this your first time ever getting arrested?
This was the second time.
Second time,
because we had got arrested for like a stolen car before.
Okay.
Right. But it's my first time getting arrested, like in front of everybody. Like they brought me into school. It's 2,000 young people. They brought me into school as I go through the metal detector. They knew I was coming, like, cause I knew the security guard. So normally I would get around a metal detector, even though I didn't have a knife. But this day, they made me go through the metal detector. And then, I had a knife, man.
And when you were arrested, what was that feeling like?
It was embarrassing.
Okay.
Right, I was embarrassed, like I said, because I was arrested in front of everybody, in front of my peers, in front of young people who looked up to me, like freshmen. I was a sophomore freshman.
Okay.
And I was arrested in front of adults who knew that I had more potential in me. Right, some of my teachers, some of the security officers, they knew, because like whenever we had time to sit and talk, they knew I wanted to write books and make movies, and I was extremely intelligent. Right, and I really wanted to help people. I just was angry and didn't know how to deal with the anger.
And would you say that the anger, obviously it came from unfortunate situations and close tragedies, right? But would you also say the anger was coming from you being a product of your environment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. One thing about growing up in the hood, growing up in a violent hood, is that you learn that that's a normal. You learn that that's a normal response to things, right? And so in being violent, you learn that, okay, what predicates violence? Anger. So we also have to be angry as a sign of protection, to protect ourselves. So now I'm really sad inside. I really want to cry to everybody and let everybody know, listen, this hurts, what I'm dealing with, but I can't show my emotion as a young black boy in the hood, right? So now what's the facade? It's anger, it's toughness, right? So yeah, it was definitely, again, coupled what I dealt with, the tragedies, the close tragedies, and also normal, not just in the hood, but also my family, right? My mother, again, my grandfather, he was great, but he was violent. And so my mother was violent. And then my uncle was a boxer, violence, right? We love boxing, but boxing is a sport, but it's violent.
Yeah.
You hit people to get them to do what you want to do. Yeah. So that's what I learned from all of those.
So with having both parents around, what was your family cooking? Or, was your mother and father cooking in the house? And if so, what were they cooking? You mentioned your grandfather was Jamaican, right? So were you having some of the traditional Jamaican meals? What kind of food was being cooked in, Suga Ray's household?
Oh man, so first let's talk about my grandfather real quick. So he cooked a little bit, but he bought a lot of food, and I remember him calling me a fake Jamaican because I didn't eat that spicy food. I was like, it's too spicy, bro. It's too spicy.
You couldn't handle the jerk?
I couldn't handle the jerk spices. Oh, I couldn't handle it, man. So after a while, he cursed me out, called me a Yankee, and give me money to go to the rib shack. Get the American food, the mac and cheese, the ribs, and all of that stuff, right? But what was cooked in my house, man, I remember specifically two instances, right? There were late nights, right? Sometimes when my dad would be at work, my dad had a cleaning business, right? But I would call him, Daddy, I want a steak. And my dad made the best steak. Like I can't, like now I don't eat any of that anymore, and I never will again. But like I can remember going back there, and I remember eating steak in different places, restaurants, different people's houses. And everyone who tasted my dad's steak said my dad should have worked in a restaurant because his T-bone steak was incredible. But it was that, and it was Saturday mornings, the breakfast. Yeah, my dad was from the South, so he made big breakfast. He made like sausage and bacon. He made like pancakes and French toast or waffles. He made eggs, he made grits, he made salmon croquettes, he made toast, he made all of the stuff that obviously I enjoyed then, but when I look back, I'm like, wow, no wonder he got sick and died, right? No wonder I became really violent and many people in my family became violent and spent time in prison. You can't think clear like that, but
Do you think that the food we eat has more of an emotional tie, connection to us? For example, the way you just kind of went back and reminisced as you were talking about your father's cooking, the salmon croquettes, the T-bone steak. Do you think sometimes as people who eat animal-based foods, sometimes it is the emotion.
100%.
When we think about, the holidays, what we eat over the holidays, grandma's cooking, this and that. And that's why sometimes it is extremely difficult for us to let go of some of those meals and
100%.
dishes.
No, 100%. Food is emotional, food is cultural. You explained it perfectly just now, right? When we think about food, we think about grandma's house, granddad's house. We think about the memories we had as children, playing with our friends, right? We think about the pizza parties, right? We think about the experiences that made us feel good, that made us feel loved, that made us feel whole, that made us feel safe. Because ultimately it's about feeling safe. And so we attribute food with feeling safe. Right? And now, obviously, I've been vegan for a while now, but there's vegan comfort food. When I'm feeling emotional, I might get some vegan comfort food. I know it might not be best for me because it may still be starch, it may still be, but it's still comfort food. It still makes me feel good.
Something you
nostalgic.
can enjoy. Yes.
It's nostalgia, right?
Yes,
You want to go back to a time. And so food also has the power to rewire your brain, right? And so when we become really conscious about what we put in our body, why we're putting it in our body, then we can say, you know what? I understand that this food have a cultural or emotional connection to this food. However, let me rewire my brain and create a new emotional connection, right? Because one of the biggest things that really helped me break away from it, that death diet, right, is when I realized that
standard American diet
is death. Is death. What helped me break away from that was realizing that a loved one will die from diabetes, from cancer, from heart disease, from high blood pressure, everything that you know is related to food. And at the funeral, we would eat the same food.
Eating the same food.
At the funeral.
And
then we would pray over it and say, God bless us. And then get mad when you get sick and die. Say the devil, no, you're not listening to nature.
We had a conversation the other day and I was talking about peace. And, people are praying for peace. But it's difficult for me to see how we can pray for peace when we are putting animal-based foods into our system, because that's not peaceful at all, right? I'm not Muslim, but the saying, no pork on my fork, right? And some of these sayings are true because how we look at food is, we are overly consuming,
of course,
some of these products, some of these animals, and we may think because our taste buds are tricking us and they've been programmed that this is what we need, but in all actuality it's not what we need. But before we even get there,
it's so deep.
Let's continue. Let's continue
go.
This build up. So let's fast forward. High school, you get your GED. Tell me about 2003. You're sitting on a park bench. Oof. What happens then?
So I just want to go back real quick, right? Yes. And I just want to say that I got kicked out of high school at 15, found the GED program, but I couldn't start till I was 16.
Oh, yes,
right?
okay.
So I had to wait until March. That was December 99 I got kicked out. I had to wait until March 2000 when I was 16 to go to the GED program. I took the test in June. I passed it. I had one of the highest scores in the country.
Wow.
First try, flying colors. Again, extreme intelligence. I didn't start college until the end of next year, 2001, right? And when I started college, that year and a half I took between getting my GED and going to Kingsborough Community College, I got in so much trouble. And if I could go back, and obviously life happens the way it happens, and I'm super grateful because I'm living my dream, I would have started college sooner. Because I was always into learning, bro. Always into learning.
Like a sponge. You
Like
just
a sponge.
soaking
I
up
love
all
learning.
information.
Bro, I took at 17 years old. It was no other 17-year-old that would even conceive this. You know, at that time, especially that I knew of, I took a 4-hour philosophy class on Saturday. Mind you, I'm hustling. I'm in the streets. But no, I'm taking 4-hour philosophy on Saturday. Bro, I used to be hustling. I used to come from school. I used to have my book bag, have psychology books, sociology books, philosophy books, English stuff. I took drama class, theater. I'm outside on the block doing my homework, right? Got my notebook, but I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna make a sale. Then I got my gun on me too, right? I'm living both lives. Why? Because this is the life I've been conditioned to, right? Partly because what I wanted to do, which was make films, books, you know what I mean, TV shows. They told me it was an unrealistic dream, but Silver Cup is right across the street, so why nobody can help me get involved? So you know what? If you don't help me do what I want to do,
I'm gonna do it myself.
I'm gonna figure it out, and part of figuring it out is rebelling, right? So I rebelled, but I knew that school was extremely important, right? Because I love learning, and I knew.
So even after your GED, you said, you know what? I'm not just gonna stop here, because it seemed, I don't know, but it seems as if maybe sometimes when people get their GED, that's where it just stops.
Of course.
And you said, I still want to go to school. I still want to go to college. I still want to be educated, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be looked at. I don't want to feel as if I'm selling myself short,
100%.
although I'm on the other side and I'm hustling and I'm doing all these
100%.
things. Wow.
Partly because also some of the OGs in the hood said, if you do negative, you gotta do a little bit of positive to balance it out. And so these are truths that I held. Okay, I'm doing a lot of negative. So what's the most positive I could do? I could go to school, and bro, I was mentoring and tutoring my peers, right? Like I'll be in a community center helping people my age with English, with math stuff, with science stuff. Why? Because like number one, I cared. Number two, because I was conscious enough to realize that I can't be just on the streets all day as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. I gotta do something with my time. Because like I had a dream at one point, and it was to be more than just a street kid.
Yeah. So you said between 99 and 2000, you was getting into a lot of trouble, and then you get into a lot of trouble, and I'm assuming in 2003, trouble comes back and finds you. Yeah,
man. I mean, it was right there, right? It wasn't even like a long thing. And it started from gambling a couple of months prior. You know, we were outside gambling. I won a lot of money from this guy, you know, almost $5,000. He made another bet. He didn't have the money, so he ass bet me, right? He was older. He was in his almost 30. I was a teenager, 19 years old. We got into an argument, you know, when he tried to use his name and what he's done in the past to like intimidate me and be like, just take this little bit of money and I'll give you some drugs to cover the rest. I'm like, nah, I don't want the drugs. Give me my money, right? I'm such and such. You know what? I threw the money back at him. Keep it. You need it more than I do. So now over the next few months, we would gamble with each other, but I stopped liking him. Right, I realized the type of person he was. I'm like, I don't like this guy. And I let it be known that I didn't like him, to him and to others. So fast forward, you know, and again, right, when I look back, I remember that time like it was yesterday, right? I remember June 2nd, 2003, when I actually got shot. But going back to June 1st, right? Going back to the night before, I was supposed to go to Connecticut. I was supposed to be in Connecticut with a girl, going to the casino, right?
It's always when you're supposed to be somewhere else.
And I promise you, when midnight hit, now it was Sunday night, now it's midnight, it's Monday morning, early Monday morning, midnight. Every hour on the hour, my stomach got tighter. Every hour, literally, I would look at my watch or look at my phone, and my stomach hurts. I'm not thinking intuition. I'm not conscious about intuition at the time, right? I'm drunk, I'm high, I'm still depressed, right? Like whatever's whatever. And I remember every hour on the hour, every hour on the hour, every hour on the hour. Now, fast forward, it's 6-something in the morning, and I'm sitting at the store. I'm like, all right, I'm about to go home. I see my friends walk by. Where y'all going? Yo, we're going to get some breakfast over here at the Spanish restaurant. All right, cool. I'll see y'all later. I'm going home. I'm going to meet this girl. Spirit told me, and again, Spirit makes no mistake, so it's all divine. Spirit said, no, go with them. So now I go to cash them. I walk through the block. Dudes is gambling. The dude who I had the issue with is gambling with some other dudes. So now I gamble. I lose the money I had. I got no more money. But I did the same thing he did to me. I made a bet that I couldn't cover. And when I lost the bet, you know, I was like, yo, SMD. right? You know, suck my you know what. And I walked away. And came back like 20 minutes later, we had a fight. I beat him up. And then he came back an hour and some change later and shot me. Shot me in front of my friends, broad daylight, 9:30 in the morning, in front of my building. My mother was in the window. It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy. And yeah, it was one of the scariest moments of my life because I'm sitting there with my friends, we smoking weed, and my boy next to me, scariest face I've ever seen. He's like, oh, shit. And I look at his face and I follow his eyes, and by the time I look, the guy's in my face with the gun, pointed like in my face like that. I looked in his eyes, I saw murder. I saw death. You know what I mean? But then he lowered the gun and shot me in my legs 3 times and ran away. And what's crazy about that, fast forward, one of my, you know, when we dropped the documentary, American Hero, and when I talk about that, right, like seeing murder in his eyes, one of my boys, Donnelly Rodriguez, you know, housing attorney, housing activist, he said, maybe in your eyes, he saw life. Because we made eye contact. And I promise you, I felt like he wanted, because he said, I'm gonna kill you. And he came with the gun in my face. But as we locked eyes, he lowered it, shot me in my legs, ran away. And then fast forward even, I had a gun now because I want to kill him. Fast forward a year and some change later, I ended up going to jail for another shooting where nobody got killed, thankfully, but I tried to kill some people. They didn't get killed. And then a month after that, he got killed.
Wow. So this is going to sound very oxymoron-ish. Do you think by him shooting you, he saved your life?
Absolutely. 100%. By him shooting me, and then by the next year, me going to prison for shooting, absolutely saved my life. Bro, I was on a path of self-destruction. I wanted to die. I did not want to live. I had more money than ever at the time. I had girls. I was fly. But like, I was depressed.
Let's dive into that because as black men, we never really discuss mental health. We see certain things. We see the riches. We see the gold. We see the ice. We see somebody popping bottles in the club. And sometimes when we're looking at that, we say, damn, I want to be that person. But not even understanding that that person is going through a struggle.
100%.
Even sometimes as when you see the man with all the girls.
Overcompensating.
It might be overcompensating for something else. Or the man with all the money and he's just spending it on cars or jewelry might be overcompensating for something else. So here you are. You know, you got paper in your pocket. You got girls around you. You feeling, well, at least what it looks like, you feeling good. Yeah. But here you're telling me you were actually depressed.
Bro, I was drinking every day. Bro, and before I kicked out of high school, I was 15, right? I told you I was drinking every day in high school at 14 years old. 14 and 15, we were drinking 99 banana every day. I passed out in gym class. Gym was my first class, and I was drinking before gym. I was smoking weed and drinking at 8 in the morning as a 14 and 15-year-old.
Wow.
Passed out in gym class, they had to put me out in a wheelchair. Everybody's laughing at me. Wow. Embarrassing.
And it's crazy because 99 bananas, I used to drink that in college.
The worst thing.
And that joint used to have me finished. So I can only imagine at 14.
As a teenager.
Yeah.
Come on. At 8 in the morning. Not just as a teenager, but as a teenager at 8 in the morning.
At 8 in the morning. So when he puts that gun to your head and he lowers the gun and he shoots you 3 times, when that first bullet hit, did you even feel it? Did it happen so quickly?
So I didn't know I was shot. It was literally 3 quick shots. Boom, boom, boom. I didn't know I was shot. What happened was I lowered my head. I put my head down, right? I heard the shots, but I tried to get up and chase him. And then I couldn't feel my legs. I came with my legs. And then my boy was like, yo, look at all that blood. I looked and I was like, yo, this mother effer shot me. And I was just angry that he shot me, right? And then I was like, okay. Then you hear the ambulance coming. My mother screamed the loudest scream I've ever heard anybody scream. You know those movie screams when like a person screams and there's a screech and all the glass breaks?
Yep.
That scream because she thought I was dead. Because remember, I put my head down. So like she thought I got shot in my stomach or my face or something like that. And I just was angry.
And what was, how long did it take you to heal and recover from those wounds?
So initially they said, because they shot me in my calf, right? And then both died. So initially it was like it should take me 6 to 9 months to walk again.
Okay.
But I was always extremely resilient. And so I was home in Southside doing my own physical therapy. And I got off the crutches in like 12 weeks, 3 months.
Wow, look at the body
and I was
healing
walking.
itself and repairing itself. And then you said, fast forward, you know, you were trying to retaliate from another situation where you did end up, you know, shooting at somebody, but nobody got shot, right? And you ended up serving time for that, right? Let's get into that. How long did you serve and where did you serve your time?
I did 3 years. I was sentenced to 3 years. Did 30 months and 2 weeks to be exact, from August 2004 to March 2007. I came home right before my 23rd birthday, like 5 days before my birthday. And I was in Ulster County. I was in Green Correctional Facility. I did 90 days in mid-state box. I did 90 days in solitary confinement. And then
Time out. We got to pause right there. 90 days in solitary confinement. You know, for the people that don't know Suga Ray, you know, his energy is off the wall, right? And when we speak off camera, and even when we're speaking through text message and DM, I feel his energy, right? I can tell he's a very hyperactive, energetic person. So for you to tell me you did 90 days in solitary confinement, what was that like, brother? Because you seem like, you know, you a people person. You love talking to people. So now you're isolated in between 4 walls. Yeah. Just you, yourself, and 4 walls. Yeah. How did you manage that?
Listening to music, writing, and working out, right? So one of the gifts that I like to say, getting in trouble a lot gave me as a byproduct, right? I got on punishment a lot as a kid, all right? Again, fighting in school, getting suspended from school. You know, my dad didn't hit me at all, but they would punish me, right? My mother hit me, but they both would take things away, and you know what, you can't go outside, you gotta stay in the house. And I remember 1 year, I was on punishment from like November to like March. Where I go to school, come home, in the house. And there was a tree in front of my window, in front of our building. There's a big tree in QueensBridge, right in front of our building. And so from November to March, I watched the leaves change color. I watched the leaves fall. I watched the snow come. I watched the rain. Then I watched the leaves start to come back, right? I didn't know I was meditating, right? I was focusing on one thing. I was focused meditation, right? Practicing focused meditation at the time. Or sometimes just because I'm on punishment now, I can't go outside. I'm in a house with 4 walls. I gotta stay in my room. I gotta learn to live in my mind.
So what you're saying is, as a child, some of your punishments, those circumstances already prepared you for that solitary 100%. Confinement. Okay.
So I didn't go crazy in solitary confinement, right? And let me actually correct it. Part of it was solitary. Part of it, there was probably for like a month, I had a bunkie, right? I had a bunkie because it was, again, more, I think probably I would say like maybe 65, 70 days was by myself. And then like the other 20 or something days, it was 2 different bunkies. It was one guy, he was there for like a couple of days, like 2 weeks, and there was another guy there for like 2 weeks. And the second guy, the older guy, he's the one who helped me, because at first, you know, I was just like, all right, I'm here, like whatever. I wasn't really focused on anything. But when the older guy came in, Coop, I'll never forget him, he working out every day. He was like, yo, young blood, man, yo, you in here, man, make something of your time. You got a bright mind, man, write something. And that's when I remembered, I'm a writer. And I'm a damn good writer. I've been writing since I was a kid. So let me write. And that's when I started writing again. Right? But what the solitary confinement allowed me to do was get back in touch with myself.
Wow. And you know, life has such an interesting journey, because sometimes what we think is punishing us is here to save us, right? You know, just kind of seeing how your story and your journey connects the dots with meditation. If you don't go through that imprisonment stint, right? Who's to say that we are even here connecting as men?
We would not be, I guarantee it.
And I know that, well, I'm assuming that while you were in prison, you were not vegan just yet.
No, not at all.
But I do have a question, knowing what you know today. Is it possible for someone to be vegan while incarcerated?
Of course, it's extreme. It's obviously more difficult, but it's extreme discipline, right? You can be vegan no matter, once you make the commitment. The mind is so powerful. Once we commit to a thing, no matter what's going on around us, if we committed to that, because Number one, we will endure because the body can go so long without food, right? I've done a 30-day fast, right? There are people who've done 45, 50-day, 60-day fast, and even longer without eating food, just having juice, right? So it's like, okay, if we know we can do that, then even incarcerated, you can be vegan, 100%.
Now, what is the food like in prison?
Oh man, it's slop, bro. It's like school food, but worse. It's like school food, but worse. Like public school food, but worse. Because public school food, like you're out in the world and your parents can come complain if it's too bad. But it's worse because who gonna complain if it's too bad? The CEOs ain't gonna complain, right? You could tell your parents all you want. They're gonna write a letter, they're gonna throw the letter away. They're gonna call the warden, they're gonna throw that call away. So it's like the food is slop, right? But again, I never like to glorify prison at all, right? Because like prison dehumanizes you, right? Prison strips you of your freedom and strips you of your personhood, not just manhood, but women go to prison, strips you of your personhood. It makes you a number and a commodity, right? However, when you are in that state, you have to make the best out of things. So there were some days when we had cornmeal and coffee cake for breakfast. We looked forward to that. There were some days we had waffles or pancakes. We looked forward to that, right? And then I remember being in Oneida Correctional Facility after coming out of the box. I was in there with my man Shot Skills, who's from my projects. And we happened to be in like an honor dome. And we had a stove and a refrigerator. So we made omelets. We made omelets, we made bacon. I remember one Thanksgiving, a bunch of us got packages and we bought stuff from commissary. We made a whole Thanksgiving meal using the microwave.
Wow.
Right, we had like my man from Harlem, his people sent him Sylvia's canned collard greens, right? So we had canned collard greens, we had chicken, we had barbecue chicken, sent the fake turkey up there, like, you know what I mean, the small turkey, we had a little turkey. We made the best out of it, but generally, more often than not, the food is terrible. Sometimes they serve you like, sometimes they serve the waffles and they frozen damn near.
Wow, okay. What was the decision behind when you said, you know what, eating meat, eating animal-based products, eating dairy is no longer for me?
So that was 2000 and so it was really a gradual process, right? It was 2000 and so my dad passed 95, older sister 98. When I was in prison in 2005, I was 20. I was 20. I was 21 already. One of my best childhood friends died of an enlarged heart, right? And now even before that, a lot of violence happening, right? So again, I've always been a thinker. I took philosophy class, so I'm always asking myself why. Why is this happening? Why am I behaving like this? Why am I doing this? Why are my friends doing this, right? In prison, it was like, okay, there are, especially in Green Correctional Facilities, there are 3,000 young people between 16 and 25 years old from different backgrounds. Some got two-parent households, some got all their grandparents, some got none. Some come from a big house, some come from a project, some are foster kids, some come from money, some don't. But we're all here, right? We're all here. It's a setup. What's the commonality? Two commonalities. Well, three, our age, our race a lot of times, and what else? Our freaking diet. So our diet is like, whoa. So it was me realizing that in prison, right? Like our diet is making us like this, partly. I didn't know about veganism. I knew about Etal Vital, right? Again, Jamaican, Caribbean family and stuff like that. So I knew that there were people who only ate plants. I didn't know like it was accessible to a person like me. It was like, okay, that's for those people. That's the people who grew up like that. That's for people on the island. That's for people who either that's all they have or that's how they grew up. I grew up this way we eat, right? But I remember when I first cut out pork. I cut out pork, then I cut out beef, then I cut out chicken, then I cut out turkey, then I cut out seafood, right? Then I cut out the mac and cheese, the dairy, right? And it was a gradual process. It wasn't like I set out to be like, I'm gonna be vegan or I'm gonna be plant-based. It was like, I just wanna be better, man. I just wanna be better physically. I don't wanna get sick like my people in my family have gotten sick. I don't wanna be violent no more. I really wanna like tame my mind. Like I don't like what my mind is doing, even on the things that I don't act on. Still violent thoughts. I don't like that state of mind. And then it was like, not only myself, I wanna help cure the community.
So you put it together that the violence might be stemming from the food 100%. And the diet.
100%.
And you made that initiative, right? Coming from QueensBridge, coming from these backgrounds, saying, you know what? Let me start to remove particular items one by one. And when you started to do that, what was your bodily reaction and what was your mind? Like, what happened after? Did you say, wow, like, I feel transformed. What the hell is going on?
So I remember, I had a back injury, right? I had two herniated discs in my back, right? That's causing me some problems today. But I remember my parole officer. So I went to prison. I was like 175, 180, right? I was fucking 20-year-old kid. The highest weight in prison in 30 months, I was 230 pounds. So I gained about 60 pounds, 50 something, 60 pounds in 3 years. That's a lot of weight, right? And so I think that's what caused the freaking slip disc, right? Because I didn't get hit. I wasn't lifting crazy weights, right? And I remember being on parole and my PO said when he lost weight, when he changed his diet, right? He wasn't vegan, but he just said, when I changed my diet, I lost weight, I alleviated the back pain. So it was that too. And so getting off of the pork, the beef, all of that stuff, when I was just eating seafood, I started to feel a difference. It was like, okay, I feel myself getting slimmer and I feel my back getting lighter, right? I feel my back getting lighter. And then the deeper I went, it was like stuff was happening and my brain was responding differently, right? And it was like, again, I've always lived in my head. So it was like, wait, that's not how I would normally think about the situation. Why am I thinking like that? And I didn't initially attribute it to like what I was eating. I just thought, okay, I'm growing. I'm aging. I'm getting older. I'm getting more mature. But when I look back, and even at some point, I specifically was like, okay, food is medicine. Food is medicine. Food is medicine. If I have a foggy mind, food, what I eat, can alleviate that fog.
Yes.
Right? It can clear my mind.
And it's crazy because even for me, that's really the first difference I noticed is because my brain was foggy often. Mm-hmm. And once I changed my diet, it just wasn't foggy. Like I was like, you know what? If I'm going to make a bad decision, I'm at least thinking straight on this bad decision. Not saying that I make, great decisions all the time, but at least I'm able to step into this bad decision with confidence and not being like, I don't really know. So that is definitely a key, at least something that I've realized when a lot of people talk about what are some of the main changes, that cloudy and that brain fog being removed is one of the main differences.
Nick, I remember, I think I might have been like 16, maybe 17. I remember I was hustling, maybe $1,000 in my pocket, and a pizza man rolled on the block. And the thought was rob the pizza man. And so I did it. When I look back, it's like, why did I rob the pizza man? I had money, I could have bought the pizza. The pizza wasn't for me, right? I'm able to think about all these different things. And all I can attribute it is to the impulse, right? Diet. Right? You are what you eat. So if eating animals, you're going to be animalistic, right? You're eating animals that were tortured. You want to now torture people. You want to inflict harm on people for no reason other than the fact that they exist and you can.
You are what you eat.
100%.
So if you are eating a tortured animal, you are going to represent
a tortured animal.
Spirit.
Come on. And what's so crazy about that term, and I guess this is where we get the idea, listen to the message, not the messenger. A lot of our parents, a lot of our elders told us you are what you eat. They ate terribly though. We should have listened to them. But obviously we were children, we didn't understand it fully, right?
I think a lot of it has to do with culture. We're here in America, for example, let's go back to that standard American diet. A lot of the folks who are in America, a lot of the white people are come from being the oppressors, right? So, their culture kind of relied on eating the flesh, eating the meats and all of these things at a level that Black culture has never done before. But now because we're here and we're sitting in their American culture, we have been quote unquote whitewashed
100%.
to eat the same foods. And, even when we are thinking we're eating healthy, a lot of the foods that are on the shelf have no nutrients
at all,
right? And even when you go to other countries, they don't eat the same way. They don't treat their bodies the same way. And I see why America is the most obese country in the world. And not only if we're talking about obesity, we can talk about heart issues, the sodium issues, all of these problems, right, that now affect our people. So when you're switching your diet and when you are fully clean of eating, all these tortured animals, what is it like when Suga Ray goes back to Queensbridge and tries to put the homies on.
Get out of here with that crap, man. I don't want to hear all that. All right, I don't want to hear all that, man. You just eating like us. You think you better than somebody? It's like, nah, man. I just like, let's do better. Like,
you know, when people say or pray for God to come down on earth and save us, what they are thinking is maybe somebody with blue eyes or maybe, you know, somebody with long hair is actually going to be present and come down and save you, 100%. Not realizing that if we are all built from God, we have God in us.
100%.
So their savior in that moment might actually be
100%.
you. But we are so visual that if we don't actually see Jesus Christ himself, we are going to deny ourselves.
So what's powerful is not only we're so visual that if we don't see the idea of Jesus Christ, we'll also have so much self-hate that it can't be somebody who look like me, who come from the same place I came from, who I may think I'm better than. They can't tell me nothing to help me. They can't tell me nothing to help me, especially if you ain't got no money. Especially if you young Suga Ray, broke, poor, just trying to do something good with myself. What you gonna tell me, Suga Ray, man? Get out of here, man. Right? So it's not just the idea, the visual of what they want to see, it's the idea of what they can't see. They can't see somebody who looks like them, who came from where they came from, who they may think they're better than. Talk better than me, I got a list. I got gap in my teeth, I got a dent in my head, right? I got a little limp, right? Like, you can't be better than me, man. I mean, I ain't got the perfect body. He don't know what he talking about.
It's crazy because now you do missionary work in a sense where
and they love it.
You go back to Queensbridge and you're handing out free vegan food.
And they love it.
You know, I don't mean to fast forward, but let's fast forward a little bit. And how the hell did that even happen, right? So we have Suga Ray, right? We have somebody who grew up in Queensbridge, who saw some violence, who was a part of violence, who was incarcerated, who was a part of the system, just like we all have been, eating animal-based products. Now he goes to jail, seeks for a better lifestyle, comes home, you know, is doing his thing, trying to find his footing, and ends up creating an opportunity that gives people free vegan food. We're not even talking about the festival yet. We're talking about when you just go and post up in front of Queensbridge with the table, and you know you have sponsorships, and you're handing the people in your community better food options. How did that happen?
So I want to go back, and I gotta shout out my man Mitt, right? Rest in peace. Mitt was a DJ from Queensbridge. Mitt ended up, becoming a drug addict. But Mitt used to go on a train and give out sandwiches, right? And it was his own thing. Like, he wasn't part of an organization, but he used to give out sandwiches to anybody who was hungry, but also raise money for his thing, to do his thing, right? And I remember seeing that. And so I remember, when I changed my life in 2008, I came home 2007, I finally officially changed my life 2008. And one of the things was like, people need to eat, right? I had a deep affinity because I had a cousin who was homeless, right? And then again, my grandfather, my uncle, my dad always told me, you take care of your community. You take care of the people around you. So I knew one of the issues was there were people who really weren't eating. So I used to take my little bit of money, little EBT, like go to the supermarket, buy turkey, cheese, all of the stuff, and just give people sandwiches, regular sandwiches, right? Again, that's what I was eating. Fast forward, pandemic happens, right? I'm vegan already now for a while now. But I was, doing other things at the time the pandemic happened. I was at the end of like a tumultuous marriage. So I really wasn't focused. I mean, I was giving clothes out and stuff like that, but not really vegan food. Cause it was like, okay, like sometimes like, you can come to my house and I can feed you. You know what I mean? I can feed like 5, 6 of us. I can make food for us. I can buy food for us. But in terms of the whole community, the pandemic happened, and I was working for the census, or I was working for the U.S. Census at the time. And we had an issue. It was like, okay, we got to get this information to people, but nobody's coming outside. And we're not going to people's houses because well, it's got COVID, right? What's happening? We don't know. So it was like, you know what? Maybe if we give out food, right, we can get people to come down and get the food, and we could talk to them about the census, right? And so first it was regular sandwiches people was giving out because it was people who were in charge of that was beyond me. But then I just had the courage and the confidence. I was like, yo, the food we're giving people is actually contributing to the COVID. Wow. So let's give people better food.
Okay.
I was like, okay, well, what do you suggest, Suga Ray? Let's give them vegan food. You think people's gonna eat vegan food, Suga Ray, if that's the only choice they have? And if it's good vegan food, absolutely. So at first we was giving out, we was doing regular food still, but we started doing eggplant entrees, right? Eggplant platters, right? People loved it. So like, yo, let's do that more. Let's do that more. And then we stopped giving out the other food, right? The other cooked food, and we're just vegan food. And then we were doing the grocery boxes, right? USDA came, or organization Queens Together came, had the USD box, had the opportunity to give out 600 boxes a week, right? 600 big boxes a week. And so again, me being part of a community that eats a certain way, I was like, you know what, all right, I'll take it. But we did it for 4 weeks, and I noticed that my mother, even, she was good. She had asthma, but she was good for a while. The more she would take those boxes with the milk, with the cheese, with all the bad stuff, her asthma started flaring up again. She went to the hospital like twice within a month time, and I was like, whoo, okay, we're not giving the boxes no more. We're not giving the boxes no more. We're not giving that bad food. We only giving vegan food. At least as it relates to me. Anybody can do what they want, but I'm not gonna be a part of that no more. People were mad at me. Suga Ray, you taking food out people's mouth. Suga Ray, you think it's all about you. Suga Ray, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. It was like, I hear you. However, I love you. And if you love me, then listen to what I'm telling you, right? Listen to what I'm telling you. This food is making us sick, man. You think the government gonna give us anything for free that's gonna help us? No. Yeah, it's gonna make you feel good in the moment, right? You feel full, but what is it doing on the back end? How many people from Queensbridge alone died during COVID? Hundreds, if not thousands from Queensbridge died during COVID. Whole families were wiped out, bro. 3, 4 siblings died. A mother, a father, her husband, and their oldest daughter died. Right, like
they didn't know how to take care of themselves.
They know how to take care of themselves. So it was like, nah, I can't perpetuate that no more. So that happened simultaneously. Again, we giving out the food. The same organization, Queens Together, they come and they like, yo. So we was doing food on Fridays, right? Shout out to Astoria Mutual Aid Network, because they was raising money from the white people in Astoria, and they was donating to restaurants so that they could give food to Queensbridge, right? So again, incredible partnerships was formed during that time. But Queens Together had a supporting fee. They knew supporting fee. Supporting fee was supporting Urban Vegan Kitchen. So we also was able to get
shout out to Urban Vegan
Kitchen. So we was able to get food from Urban Vegan Kitchen. So we was giving 300 meals out on Wednesdays from Urban Vegan Kitchen, vegan food. We was giving between 300 to 500 meals out on Friday, vegan food from different restaurants. It was incredible.
Wow.
And then it just picked up steam.
So let me ask you this. Without Suga Ray being the neighborhood hero and thinking about his people, do you believe that a vegan diet is attainable to those who live in Queensbridge?
Everything's attainable. But without someone to champion that, without someone to push it, empower it, to encourage people that it's okay, then nah, right? I think that, and I say this humbly, and I say this because people have said it to me, right? Older people, younger people, people I'm close to, and people who barely know me. There's no other person that could have did what I did and get people in Queensbridge to want to eat vegan food. There's people who think they could, but no one else could have done what I've done because I was so authentic. Because people knew my past too, right? They knew that Suga Ray was violent. Suga Ray went to prison. Suga Ray sold drugs. And now he's telling us to eat vegan food. And he said his life was changed by it. Let me give it a try. And I give one huge shout out to my aunt. My aunt, she said she had never had a full vegan meal. My aunt is in her early 50s right now. She said she had never had a full vegan meal until we did a bus trip to DC, August 2020, during the pandemic. I took a bunch of young people and older people. We went to DC, did a walking tour. I wanted to, get some history, get out of the neighborhood. And we had a vegan feast on the Great Lawn in DC, right? I found the vegan chef down there, ordered a bunch of food, and we had a whole vegan meal. People who had never eaten just vegan food, they've eaten, rice and beans, which is vegan, but they always had chicken or turkey or steak or something with it. It was fully vegan food, full course meal with dessert.
They're probably blown away how good it was.
Blown away. And my aunt, since then, she's not fully vegan yet, but she was able to get off her asthma medication. Yep. She was able to get off MAD medication. Even she had hip surgery recently, and she said the doctor asked her, how are you recovering so fast?
Wow. I've spoken to several people who have either they've had asthma or their children have asthma, and they said once they removed the dairy and they, rocked with the plant-based vegan diet, the asthma went away.
100%.
Wow.
We have to understand, right, when we talk about asthma, when we talk about cancer, whatever we're talking about, these are not things that just happen, right? People say asthma runs in the family. Okay, the diet runs in the family that causes the asthma. That's what it is. People don't understand how powerful food is, right? I remember doing a presentation at the Department of Health back in 2016, right? And it was the cost of food, right? No, the cost of health, right? And one of the things that I realized that I didn't even, in doing the study for that, doing the research to prepare for that, something so simple. The definition of food is any substance that helps an organism grow. The definition of poison is any substance that works against the growth of an organism. So if something is hurting us, it's not food. No matter how much we think it's food, no matter how much they tell us it's food, which is where the term food products come from.
Let's go back on what you just said. No matter what we think they are telling us, something I said before, and I'm going to say it again. How can we trust the people who have been oppressing us to feed us? The people who have been oppressing us to give us the right information. These are the same people who have been erasing history from the textbooks or who have only been giving us a particular amount of history, right? So how can we trust them to enrich our bodies?
It's the Stockholm Syndrome. You fall in love with your oppressor. You fall in love with your oppressor because they give you just enough. So people say, be grateful for the crumbs. It's double-sided. It's like, okay, I'm grateful that I have something, but no, sometimes nothing is better than something.
If we were only grateful for what's been given to us, then we are still enslaved.
100%.
You know what I mean? When people say, hey, of course, like you said, I'm grateful for every meal that I eat, but why do I only deserve the crumbs?
Exactly.
I deserve the whole pie.
Exactly.
Right? I deserve to not only eat good, I deserve to feel good, I deserve to live good. Obviously, this is life, and the only thing that is guaranteed is death, right? But while I'm here, I want to live better. And I don't want it to be the foods that I am making the decision to put into my body
to take me out.
Facts. And I think that people sometimes have a tough time comprehending what food actually does 100%. To the body.
100%. And it was crazy about it is because in every religion it tells you food is that medicine, right? So not only can food prevent, right? If you live a certain way, eat a certain diet, can prevent illness. If you do happen to develop an illness because the air quality and all of the other things that can lead to illness, stress and things like that, food can reverse it. Food can reverse it. I've seen people with cancer, with diabetes, reverse it by changing their diet. You just said people with asthma have had chronic, severe asthma. And by changing one simple thing, what they eat, the asthma have subsided. It's gone away. It's gone away. And so this is the part that you speak to a lot of adults when they were younger, they didn't like science. Myself included, right? I like research. I like experiments. I didn't like science class, like sitting in front of us, a teacher teaching a certain thing. But what I realized is that biology, chemistry, physiology, anthropology, extremely important to us humans, specifically us black people, right? And so we are biochemical. The food is biochemical. There has to be a marriage of our DNA and the food that we're eating. It's either helping it grow stronger, it's either helping it be what it's supposed to be, which is a perfect machine, or it's detracting from that and then making it a vessel that's easily susceptible to illness, to dis-ease, and all of those things that can take you out. So yeah, we all gotta go, but I remember, and if you're old enough, you remember, and some viewers may remember, in the 80s, I was born in the 80s, right? But I remember hearing elders say, such and such went to sleep and just didn't wake up. But they was in perfect health. So yeah, everybody has an expiration date, but we're supposed to just go to sleep and pass, bearing any accident, right? We're not supposed to be on this medication for 30 years, chronically ill, like, oh, I can't do this, oh, I can't do that, and then pass. No, death is supposed to be like birth, graceful.
We were talking about fasting. And you said that you did a 30-day fast, right? One day I opened up my Instagram and I see this guy, Suga Ray, sleeping in a tent on the street. And
Crazy.
there was a purpose behind it.
Of course.
And I see the cops not harassing him, but asking him, hey, do you have any psychological issues? Hey, what's going on with you? Why are you on the street? What was going on? It seems as if, you were trying to bring awareness, by doing some sort of hunger strike. What was the awareness that you were creating?
Yo, man, first of all, again, I'm grateful for everything that spirit drops in me, man, but that was crazy, bro. Like 14 days, no food, sleeping outside on a tent at the end of winter. Man, it was brutal. 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 It was brutal.
How were you able to do it? Where did the mentality... Okay, it was brutal. So walk me through a little bit of it. Day one.
So, I mean, it got to go before that. You asked where did the mentality come from. Number one, I'm a champion for justice.
Hold on 1 second, Suga Ray. Let's connect a few more dots here.
Go ahead.
I asked you where does that mentality come from? But you provided to me the story of when you were a child and you were in punishment. And you were able to be in a box, isolate yourself, and then just stare and be in your own thoughts. Fast forward to the future. You do some time in solitary confinement. Would you say that being on that hunger strike, being in the tent, reminded you of those situations?
Kind of, but not really, because the hunger strike, I was filled with love. Right? Like my girlfriend was there, my mom came to see me. If not every day, every other day. A lot of people, strangers came to see me.
So you had that support.
Had a huge, big support.
So where did that mentality come from for you to go 14 days?
So number one, like I said, I'm a champion of justice. Right? I'm a champion of fighting for what's right. I'm a champion of, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right? And so the spot that I did the hunger strike at is the spot that Amazon was going to buy, right? It's a Department of Education building that's underutilized, right? And it's been underutilized for 20 years, right? If I'm not mistaken, about give or take. And so, I'm part of an organization, Western Queens Community Land Trust. And the Community Land Trust is an organizational structure that allows a group of people form an organization and allows them to purchase property or to get property from the city donated to them to create a new standard of ownership, right? Where it's like 33% owned by business owners in the neighborhood, 33% owned by residents in the neighborhood, and then 33% owned by artists and other people who will use the space.
And government don't like that.
Not at all. Because it takes away where, we was gonna sign a 100-year lease where no one group of people could say, let's sell it for profit.
What did you just say? You said the building was on a 100-year lease.
Well, that's the idea of a community land trust. Sign a 100-year lease, and in the lease is a stipulation that no one group of people
can own it,
or to say, let's sell it for profit. No. Wow. Right? So that's what a land trust is, right? So the organization I'm a part of, Western Queens Community Land Trust, we was identifying space that we can use to build the land trust, to create deeply affordable art space, to create a rooftop garden, to create a storage space for food vendors in the neighborhood, because a lot of them, either if they're able to store their trucks in the neighborhood, they're overcharged, or some of them have to leave the neighborhood and come to Brooklyn, right, where they're still overcharged, right? So we wanted to create deeply affordable space for everyone, right? We was able to push back against Amazon. Amazon, they backed out of the bid.
So you fought Amazon.
So I wasn't really involved in that fight. I was dealing with my marriage at the time. But my peoples fought that fight, and they fought Amazon. My man Donnelly, my man Stan, organization Justice for All Coalition, Western Queens Community Land Trust.
And then instead of being there, they went back to Virginia.
Yeah.
To Arlington. which they're about to open up.
The HQ, right? So a group of people fought back against Amazon, right? I attended some of the meetings. I really wasn't involved. I had other deeply personal stuff to take care of, but I supported the cause, right? And people would ask me, people get mad at me, Suga Ray, why are you letting these people go against Amazon? Amazon's gonna promise jobs. My thing was always this. Number one, it was two things. Who they promising jobs for? We gotta stop believing that they're gonna give the people who live here, the high quality jobs. Number two, we don't need them to create jobs, we need each other. We need each other because there are scientists in the projects, there are filmmakers in the projects, there are entrepreneurs in the projects where if we had the resources, we can create 100 jobs, 500 jobs. So the jobs that y'all talking about Amazon is promising, if y'all invested in us, we can create those jobs for our people. That's more dignifying, that's more honorable, and that's more community based. Right, so the organization, we was trying to get the space, right? And the city is like, oh no, we're using it. And it's like, wait, you was gonna sell it to Amazon for $1. Y'all was going to move all of the supplies y'all have, because it's really just a storage space. Y'all was gonna put it somewhere else, we don't know. But y'all was gonna get out of that building. Now we wanted to do something good to save the young people in my neighborhood. Y'all telling us y'all using it. So we did a rally, right? We did a rally in 2022. And it was a great rally, right? A lot of people, a lot of energy, music, food vendors. It was great. People felt really good. But I remember talking to the co-chair of the Western Queens Community Land Trust, Jenny, and I remember saying, this ain't gonna do nothing. The city still ain't gonna listen to us. Somebody gotta do something extreme. Like somebody gotta tie themselves to the building and stay there. And I was like, somebody gotta do it. And then I wasn't thinking to be me. I'm like, I'm a dad, you know what I mean? I got other things to do. But as life would have it, life worked out in a way where, fast forward to this year, and as, again, through all of the meetings, through all of the runaround from the DOE to the mayor's office and the state and all of this stuff, mind you, we got support from the senator, we got support from the assembly person, the local councilwoman supports the initiative, but the higher ups who make the ultimate decision, they're not hearing nobody. So it's like, how do we get more attention? How do we get more attention, and how do we build energy around the fact that this space is extremely important? And then it just came to me, it was like, yo, you gotta do a hunger strike, and you gotta sleep outside. And I promise you, bro, even the hour before actually getting an Uber and packing my stuff to go down there with my girl, I had butterflies in my stomach, because it was like, I've never done this. I've never had to sleep on the street. When I did sleep on the streets when I was younger and I was drunk and I fell asleep outside. Right? Like, but sleeping on a corner that's not in my neighborhood, number one, is in Long Island City, but it's not in Queensbridge, right? So it's like anybody could come down the block. Anybody could see a tent and like do something, do anything. But it was like, nah, it's like God didn't give me a spirit of fear. God gave me a spirit of courage. And this is what's in my heart. And so I got to do it by any means. And yeah.
Did that situation humble you? What did it feel like to sleep on the street?
Of course. It made me rethink housing. It made me realize that everybody doesn't want to live in a big house. Everybody doesn't want to live in an apartment. Some people want to live in a container home because simplicity is beauty. And so what it reminded me of was just that, right? It was like, all right, the biggest challenge was when it was cold, windy, right? But again, I was grateful. I had blankets. I had a mattress in the tent. You know what I mean? We had hand warmers. I had tea. Like, man, there was so much love during those 2 weeks, man. But I realized that not having a bathroom was tough. Outside of that, if you have money, you can live on the street. The toughest thing about living on the street is having no money, when you really got to depend on other people to buy you tea, right? Or buy you food if you want to eat. Mm-hmm. But like not eating, and again, I have money, but not eating, but having tea and having every coconut water and all the stuff I needed, it was easy, bro. It was easy. Like, it was easy, man. Like, because I had support. But what it made me realize was that
you weren't alone.
Now, what made me realize was that for those people who didn't have resources, those people who don't have community,
that's when it becomes difficult.
That's when it becomes even more brutal, right? When you don't have adequate clothing. I had long johns, and I had gloves, and I had a hat, and I had a coat, right?
You didn't have to wear 20 jeans.
I didn't have to wear 20 jeans, right? And so like I said, I've always had an affinity and always wanted to work with supporting those who are unhoused. But doing that hunger strike made me want to go harder. Made me want to go harder, not just in doing the work myself, but encouraging others to do the work as well. Because it gets lonely out there, man.
Let me ask you, do you remember the last non-vegan meal you had before going vegan?
No.
Okay. Do you remember your first fully vegan meal?
No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I could think maybe like a salad.
Okay.
Right, because when I first committed to fully vegan, I didn't really know what to eat.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, we just get a salad.
Okay, and that's a great start. Let's say you got a homie that's coming into the city. They're like, yo, Suga Ray, man, I want to try some good vegan food. What are some of your favorite vegan spots? What's the spot that you're going to take them to?
Well, the first thing I'm going to cook for.
Okay.
I make some home cooked food, man.
Okay. So what you gonna make for them?
I might make. It depends on how big the appetite is, right? It depends on what time of day it is.
Okay.
Right. It depends on if they want real comfort food in this early day, midday. I might make a vegan sausage, egg, and cheese. Right. I might make some waffles, sausage, some vegan egg. Right.
Okay.
With some toasted cinnamon raisin bread with some vegan butter. Right. If it's dinner, I might make some couscous.
Okay.
Right? I might make some quinoa. I might make some cauliflower rice with some cauliflower bites. I might make some vegan orange chicken.
Okay.
Right. I might make a veggie burger. Right. Some veggie burger and some fries. It depends. There's a lot of options.
Okay.
Right. I might, again, something simple. I remember my cousin, I gave him some cereal. He's like, cereal's vegan? I said, some cereal's not vegan. I gave him some puffins. Puffins is banging. Right, with some almond milk. It's like, yo, this is mad good. I know.
And it's crazy because
I was gonna add now in terms of restaurant, man. I mean, Urban Vegan is always a favorite.
Always.
Right, Urban Vegan. Obviously, before they was in Queens or Urban Vegan Roots, it was Urban Vegan Kitchen. I took everybody there. You know what I mean? I recommend everybody still to go to Urban Vegan Roots because not only is the food incredible, the ambiance, right, the staff, but it's really good food. Really, really good food. And outside of that, you know, now like Vegan on the Fly, I tell people go to Vegan on the Fly. I've been spreading the word about this French vegan spot, Delise and Saracen, down in the village. That spot is really good, right? Vegan Hood is banging, right? There's an Asian spot, Jujube Tree, in Long Island City. Astoria is banging. Beyond Sushi is banging.
Very.
Right? Planta is banging, right? I tell people, if you got money and you want something really fancy, 11 Madison Park, fully vegan. It was the #1 restaurant in the world.
And that is it a Michelin star?
Of course it is.
Okay.
It's a Michelin star. At one point, that was the #1 restaurant in the world.
Wow.
They were fully vegan.
And they actually switched up their menu because prior it wasn't vegan.
It wasn't vegan. It wasn't vegan when it wasn't vegan when it was #1, right? But now they're fully vegan. And again, that's a testament. Like, you can have upscale food and be vegan. Absolutely. And I went there. It's 12 courses, $326 a person. But it's high quality food. And what I love about what they're doing, the reason they charge so much is because every person who purchases, right, who spends the $326 per person, they give that feeds like 5 to 7 people for free in the streets. And they came to Queensbridge. They was in Queensbridge for like a year, 3 to 4 days a week, giving out free food, like 1,000 meals a day.
Wow. Let's talk about a festival that you are the owner and organizer of. In the summer, you have a festival in QueensBridge, the QueensBridge Vegan Festival. How did this idea come about? And tell me some more about it. You know, this year was my first time there, and I can tell you, know, the turnout was incredible because every time I was walking in the park, even when I was away from the festival, people would come up to me and they would say, oh, free food, free food, free food. Where's the free food? You know, and then I would tell them, hey, you know, just FYI, it's vegan food. Yeah. But this goes to show that sometimes when you put the word, the label, the title, vegan onto something, it deters people away for some odd reason. Whereas if you just give them the food and tell them vegan later on, they're gonna say, wow, this was good. Yeah. So talk to me about the vegan festival that you put together that happens in the summer in QueensBridge. Yeah,
man. I mean, like I said, we were doing, 2 days a week, vegan food, free. And again, I'm a lover of people, man. I love bringing people together. I love bringing people together around vegan food, around art, you know what I mean? Around, just being able to communicate. I love using my park. It's the park I grew up in, park I got married in. Subsequently, it's the park I also buried my wedding ring in after getting divorced, right? But it's my park. Right, we play baseball there, we play football there, worked out there as a kid, right? It's my park, kids, girls there in the park, right? And so when I thought about vegan festival, right? When I thought about a vegan barbecue, when I thought about doing something on a bigger scale than just the free food Wednesdays or Fridays, And then when I looked at the other vegan festivals that was happening around the city, it was like, I want to do something different. I want to do something that's really about the people. It's not about money.
And I'm going to tell you this, my brother. You know, from somebody who attends vegan festivals, yours is so different because it's an impact to the community. 100%. Whereas instead of a money grab and just having different vendors and becoming into a concert, you're looking to not only feed the people, but you're also looking to educate and inform the people. Right?
Like at the vegan festival, we had composting. Right, we had composting. We had Hood Code. Right, Hood Code is a technological entrepreneurship based company where they teach young people coding. Right, they were there. Right, we had another brother who was vending, who was teaching people about construction jobs. Right, it's about empowering the people. We're just using veganism as a tool to bring people together and to facilitate other things that's going to help people economically, educationally, culturally. Right, we had dance performance. We had a comedy show at the end. Right, we had poetry. Right, like. We can come together. What I wanted to show was with the vegan festival was that, we had a magic show. All right. What I wanted to show people is that we can come together and we can have an abundance of fun with vegan food. And the other part that I really pushed this year, because before we had vegan wine and stuff like that, but this year, no alcohol. No alcohol. We drink too much alcohol. We drink too much alcohol. We eat too much bad food. So let's have vegan food. Let's have no alcohol. In place of the alcohol, we got Vita Coco to sponsor. We got kombucha to sponsor, GT energy drinks, right? Like, let's raise the vibration of the people. And so I started it because I wanted to do just that. I wanted to raise the vibration of my people, knowing that if I'm consistent enough, more people will pick up. More people will pick up.
And then it'll start to spread.
And I'm going to say this. From the first vegan festival, right, one of the chefs was my man Blue Cheese, right? He's not a vegan chef, he's a regular chef. But he made some vegan food. He made a vegan lasagna. One of my homegirls, Kimmy's a comedian, she lives in Atlanta now. She came up. She was at the vegan festival. She ended up going live or making a video, a review, and it was crazy. People started inboxing him wanting to buy the vegan lasagna. He wasn't selling the vegan lasagna, but you know what he did? He started selling the vegan lasagna. And people came from New Jersey, people came from Connecticut, people came from near and far on Thursdays, vegan Thursdays, to buy his vegan lasagna.
Wow.
So we was able to empower entrepreneurship by way of the vegan festival, bro.
It's so crazy to me to hear that because people will fight you tooth and nail about vegan food until they try some amazing vegan food. And now the same people who are complaining are driving hours just for some vegan lasagna.
So part of it is also, right, is the vegan food is really good. The other part though that is part of our community and part of society is social buzz. Yes. If something has a buzz, people want to be a part of it. Yep. So that's one thing where, again, my brother Blue Cheese, having that talent, having that skill, we was able to create social buzz around this. So now people, if they see other people try it who they don't think would try it, they're like, I got to try it too. Yeah. They want to be a part of something. And so that's what we got to continue to do in terms of the vegan community. FOMO, fear of missing out. Absolutely.
And it's so crazy because, you know, we started this conversation off talking about some of the negatives that might have surrounded you while living in Queensbridge. And, you know, you're not a rapper, you're not an entertainer, you're not an athlete. But the same place that raised you, you are going back in and not only improving the community, you yourself are becoming the change in the community, right? Because sometimes, like I always say, representation matters. 100%. All it takes for a young black boy is to see Suga Ray out there talking about meditation, talking about yoga, talking about improving his life, talking about getting out of the streets, that may flip the switch in his head and say, what am I eating? Is what I'm eating cause a detriment to not only myself, but to my family? Because as vegans, I realize the first thing we try to do when we're going vegan is bring our loved ones on the vegan train. It doesn't always work. Cool, whatever. They'll catch on if they catch on. But being that representation and having so much of an impact, we need to be highlighting folks like you, right? You know, we can't always highlight the people who have some sort of popularity status because it don't mean anything.
It don't mean anything
if you're not going back in and touching the people that you were there with. the fact that you're there 2 days a week handing out food to the people. I was there 1 week giving out food with Hollywood. And just to see the amount of people that would walk by and I said, yo, I really needed this meal. They had the falafels. One person ate it and came back down and was like, yo, it was good. Like, and some people were mad because it was like, oh, it's vegan food. And it was that same person that tried it. So obviously, when we talked about earlier about, hey, can, a project like QueensBridge, is obtaining the vegan diet sustainable? Although it might be difficult, that's because we're looking at it from such a difficult mindset and thinking that you have to have all this money. The meats in the grocery store are expensive, right? Where you can get the chickpeas, you can get the beans, you can get all of this produce, and with a little bit more time, cook them. Rather than, I think everything we want is fast food, fast delivery. And I think that that's also hurting our 100%.
People. And talking about a vegan diet being attainable in Queensbridge, I guarantee you, bro, once we open up a vegan restaurant, like a block away from Queensbridge or in Queensbridge,
it's gonna go crazy.
It's gonna go crazy because one thing about us, we like good food. No matter what it is. If it's good, it's good. And if somebody told them, that food is good, right? If somebody who they trust tells them that food is good, I'm somebody they trust, my mother's somebody they trust, my aunt's somebody they trust.